Here we are. What is cracking? What's popping? What's shaking? It is another episode of the Comic Cinematic Universe with Chill and Grace. I'm gonna just start out by saying, "What's up, Grace?"
It feels like it's been so long.
I
How are
know it's been a
you?
while.
Yeah, because we did our last episode last week on Monday, so it feels like
Mm-hmm.
almost 2 weeks, but like it hasn't been. But. But I'm
Right.
good. How are you doing?
I'm tired. Like my body's just feeling it. They're just like on some. It's telling me it's like, hey, you haven't had your caffeine today. It's been like 24 hours since your Celsius fix. Where's your Celsius at, buddy? And me and my mind, I'm just like, not today. I'm chilling. I'm chilling today. So,
See, like I'm kind of similar, but just because, like, well, we went away to Mammoth, right? Like we
mm-hmm,
had a whole little trip, but we did hikes. Like Saturday was like a and I keep saying 8 miles and I keep saying 12 miles in the second one, but apparently it's like 3 miles and 7. But
mm,
it might as well have been because it was like full incline. We're already in elevation. It
mm-hmm.
was horrible. It was fun, but it was horrible. And my body still feels it.
Yeah. Oh well, did you have fun?
Oh, it was such a great time. We love Mammoth. It's like our spot.
Oh, okay.
So
So this isn't the first time. This is one of many that you've been to Mammoth.
oh yeah, we've gone like every single year since I've been with my partner. So it's
Okay.
been yeah, it's fun. It was a good
Okay.
time.
Okay. Cool. I'm gonna have to take a trip. I've had people tell me about Mammoth and they go skiing up there and everything like that. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
haven't gone in like ski season, which is like usually when a lot of people talk about it. I've actually only
Yeah.
been there in the summer.
Okay.
But yes, I gotta go in the winter. You gotta go do both.
Is it did you drive?
We drove. Yeah, it's like a 5 hour drive.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So I just have to be ready. It's a road trip. It's not
but
it's
you
not
know
like
what?
Big Bear like 2 hours away. It's like 3 more hours.
Yes, but you know something? I feel like the drive is better than Big Bear because Big Bear, it's kind of scary. Like the drive to Mammoth, once you get past like Lancaster, it's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Like you get all these mountains and the scenery. Like I love the drive. Like we're so happy when we're like leaving because we're still in like the field, and as we get closer to home, we start getting like depressed
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like getting all yeah. But it's cool. I highly recommend.
I
Yeah.
feel like that's how I felt on my way back from Oregon a few months back. Like, say, honestly, it's right when you cross the state line, it goes from green to brown. Like,
Yeah.
it's just from green to straight desert, you know? So
Yes.
I was like, all right, I guess I'm back now. And it happened to be during the time to where it was like the spike in gas prices. Like, say I left LA and it was like four something, and I came back, it was like five something.
And I never went back down.
I was like, "Are you serious?" So, but yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you enjoyed your trip. Uh, Game plan for today. We're wrapping up two shows. We're gonna be talking about the finale of Miss Marvel and the Boys. So, where would you like to begin?
Let's get into the boys because
The
I really want to talk
Boys.
about the boys. The finale I thought was really fun. So if you're cool, let's start there.
Oh, we're already here. The screen is up. We're
Woo!
here. Okay. So when did you see it?
I watched it like last last week. So I have my notes. So like I got my refreshers and everything. But it's been a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. It's been a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think me and you saw it around the same time, or maybe I saw it 2 weeks ago. So
You
I
saw
may
it
need,
before me.
I need a
Yeah.
few more refreshers here, but we're gonna get through it. Either way, it was a good episode. So let's start with your notes and see where the episodes begins because I honestly can't remember.
Sure, sure. Okay, so the boys, the finale. It starts off with Homelander finding Ryan, right? So episode
Right.
7, we have Victoria doing that little trade with Homelander,
Mm-hmm.
and we did talk about it in our episode 7
You didn't
breakdown.
want me to
Where
ruin it. You asked me what the piece of paper was, and I was like, okay.
I guessed it.
Mm-hmm. You sure did.
I guessed it.
You got it. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was the location for Ryan. And the last time that we saw Ryan, he was very vulnerable. I'm sorry, Butcher. In order to, in his mind, like keep him safe, he wanted to create that rift and that distance.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, I think that's what kind of made Ryan susceptible to
Right.
Homelander's outreach, and I think that's been the theme of this season too. It's like in Butcher's attempts to keep everyone safe,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of kind of shitty things happen,
Yeah.
get set off. So I think this is one of them.
Can I ask you a question about Ryan?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, this episode, I don't know when they were shooting from the last time you saw him till this episode, but I feel like he hit like a growth spurt, and
He's big.
I was like, fam, we just saw you like 4 episodes ago, and I'm sure in time wise, it could have been like 3 days, since the last time Butcher saw Ryan, but we see him here, and I'm just like, wait, he looks different. Like he looks a little older. Like he just hit his teenage years when earlier this season he still looked like he
Did he
was
fix?
10. You know what I'm saying? Did you
Yeah.
notice that?
I kind of got a little bit of that too. I do know what you're saying, and I don't know how they film shows now, because I know before it was like if you filmed an episode a week kind of a thing, but things are
Mm,
so different now that it's like in the we're in the binge world, right? It's no longer a
right.
traditional type television, so I'm not sure. I feel like I could believe it if it's like, you know. Because also things are filmed out of order. So let's just say the last time we saw Ryan was filmed like week 1, and this last episode was filmed final week, like week 8.
Mm-hmm.
I could believe in 2 months this boy would have had a growth spurt. Like I feel like in that age, like it seems like from one day to another, like they look
Yeah.
so different. So maybe it was something like that,
Yeah, they can try to give him the same hairdo. It's just he just looks looks different than how the season started off with. But yes, we saw that interaction, and then you brought up the boys. What were the boys doing at this time as well?
I don't know if I mentioned the boys.
Oh,
I just said that I think a lot of Butcher's attempts to kind of keep people safe,
oh,
had
that's what I
been
wanted to talk
meant.
about.
Yeah,
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 yeah. Just because in this episode he kind of does it like he knows what he's doing, but yet what's the young guy's name again that's dating Starlight?
Huey.
Yeah, Huey. He didn't realize it at first. He just thought he was kind of Butcher punched him in the face, locked him in the bathroom or whatnot, and then he didn't realize it. But Butcher was keeping Huey safe from taking the V-24 again. So I get it. He's kind of Butcher is a little unconventional when it comes down to keeping everybody safe, but at the end of the day, I feel like communication, it always works, in all ways, all forms, you know what I'm saying? He could have told Ryan, be like, hey, I'm sorry, you know, I gotta go away, you know what I'm saying? Yes, I'm taking this. He could have handled that differently with Ryan, and then with Hugh, we saw with the episode before, it just seemed like he was leading Huey on as if he's like, yo, we need to get some more V-24, and Huey was all in, but it was always in the back of his mind that he should.
It's because I feel like, yes, like his intentions are right, and I think he really believes that his intentions are right, but I have a feeling that to some degree he's just kind of using it to be the asshole that he is without any remorse in a way. Like I'm doing what's right, so therefore I'm just gonna do it to like a severe degree,
Right.
to the point that he's burning bridges, like very, very deeply, and I think when it came to Ryan, like he's young, he's impressionable, his mom is gone, his dad's psychotic, like he needs love and support as much as any kid, maybe even more, and especially being that he has so much power.
Right.
And I feel like, Butcher really, really, really did drop the ball, because like you said, there could have been such a different way for him to approach that,
Right.
because it wasn't like Ryan was gonna leave like the safe haven and go looking for them, so
Right. Right.
yeah.
And say when it comes down to Ryan, just to kind of backtrack, he in the end of last season, he made the decision to choose Butcher over Homelander because Homelander was seen as a threat, and Butcher just seemed more so like the safe option because that was his mom's husband, basically. But just because of the damage that, like you said, kind of that Butcher did to kind of separate him a little bit at the beginning of this season, that overall landed at the end of this season with an opposite of last season with now Ryan choosing Homelander over Butch.
Yeah, I like that parallel. I really do. And just like in addition with that, I think looking at the conversation that Ryan had with Kimiko earlier in the season, where they're kind of sharing this feeling that they kind of feel like they're because of their powers they feel like they're bad guys, you know what I mean, to a degree. And
Right.
they kind of have this self-hatred of that they kind of shared, they have that little bit of a moment. And being that Butcher finished things off the way that they did, and now Homelander comes in not just offering like that parent figure, but also giving him an answer of like, it's not your fault. Which, come on, like, what kid doesn't want to feel that sensation of like relief, to just feel like things are normal, like the things that they're struggling with, the things that they feel like are weird about them, that for someone else to come in and be like, that's normal, there's nothing wrong with you. So it just makes sense, why
But
he chose.
but in that interaction, let's say at the safe house, would you expected that to come from Homelander, like those type of feelings?
I mean, I'm not surprised by them, because despite the fact that he's a sociopath and like just way off the edge,
Mm-hmm.
like we know this is based as like he wants connection, he wants love, he wants family. Like in this episode, he says, like, he was so excited when they told him he was going to get his own team. He's like, I'm going to get the family that I never had. And he's like, and I get you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's in search of family as much as Ryan is, belonging, acceptance, everything. Um, and, it's like that, I guess, I don't know. He's a mess. So this is just how it represents. But I'm not surprised by him being able to have that heart to heart with Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
because it is his son. And also, I think he understands a perspective that Ryan may have, in that he sees himself as dangerous and that he should be hidden away and all these things. And I think that empathy was something that Ryan really was like, he needed, and unfortunately it was Homelander that gave it to him.
Right. I feel like if anything, Ryan may have been better off in the hands of another soup. I wouldn't necessarily say like Homelander, but I would just say someone who understands, someone who has powers but is in control, but also a better influence.
I wish that Kimiko and him had like maybe another conversation, because by the end of this episode or this season, I think she's had such a huge, big like story arc that I really like for her. Right, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of the self acceptance. You see it with her conversation with Frenchie here. Like your past doesn't dictate who you are. Like you have autonomy over your own life. All of that. And I feel like if she could have been like, I don't know, been able to like be with him more, I think maybe she could have served at something like that. Just not like a parent figure, but just someone to be like, I understand what you feel, because she definitely has similar
Definitely.
comes from a similar position.
Mm-hmm.
And being like it's okay, like these things don't make you a bad person, etc. But obviously coming from someone who's not insane like Homelander. So I agree. And another thing, because I agree with what you were saying, that originally I thought what you meant was, I feel like Ryan should have been in his little safe haven with someone who maybe had some powers to
Mm-hmm.
be able to fend off. Because what are they doing? They're hiding him from Homelander, right?
Right.
So of course they expect that at some point maybe he'd end up showing up or something. So it's like, I don't know. I was like, yeah, it would have been nice to have a super at this point, like to even
Right.
to just be able to contribute something. Because
Especially after again, last episode of the last season, they bring a team to get the boy. Like Vought sent a team to get the boy, and Homelander just ripped that team to shreds. So why not have a soup just to be there?
what's Grace Mallory gonna do? She
Right.
did nothing. She couldn't
Yeah.
even make a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, so definitely I feel like just this first scene, I really liked it, the way it started off, and it pretty much sets the pace for the rest of the episode, because I think Ryan's influence pretty much sets up how the series ends.
Yeah.
From here we see, so there's like a riot between the Starlights and the Homelanders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because last episode, Starlight released this clip, basically Homelander admitting to kidnapping Maeve, all
Right.
these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see like the two like opposing forces kind of like having at it. And they are putting pressure on Vought because there's going to be like an investigation or there's going to be a search warrant, right, coming through.
Right.
And this pushes them to move Maeve. And in the process, she was able to actually escape from here.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it came to the point to where, in the move, Maeve was able just to Wonder Woman herself out of the armored car. You know. Um. I don't know. I feel like when it comes down to Maeve, and now it's like I wanna compare her to Wonder Woman just for a moment. Um, because that's what I believe the writers wrote her character to be. So just based off of what we saw in this episode, do you think that like if it came down to it in DC Comics, I never read it or I never seen it on screen. Can Wonder Woman handle Superman?
Um, I don't think I've come across too much to say like, oh yeah, I've seen it. This happens. But I
Right.
feel like I can definitively be like, yeah. Like it just, I feel like that's like when we saw the scene with Maeve going against Homelander, right? And their kind of fight scene that has it. But I mean, I feel like if like there was a situation with Superman and Wonder Woman were going at it, like maybe, are you familiar with the storyline where like when uh
I know.
Lois
I
Lane
know of like
dies?
yeah, that's the Injustice storyline.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't recall, but I feel like in a scenario like that, that's something I can think of, like Wonder Woman coming in and
Right.
having to be one to maybe like duke it out with Superman.
Right.
And I feel like it would probably end up like this. Like she probably has like she can hang in, but only
Sure.
for so long because it's
Sure.
Superman.
Yeah. Like just based off of what I saw with Homelander, I would have made him out to be more so what he was in terms of like fight style, which is a brawler, as opposed to Maeve. She's more so kind of like a warrior. That like I don't know if you and I we've had this conversation years ago, just in terms of like that's how I put it as when it came down to Ragnarok with Hulk versus Thor. Hulk was more so a brawler, thought he could smash everything, and Thor is more so a warrior. Same with the Hulk and Thanos. Thanos is somebody who he just happens to be a big guy and he fights. He can't just he could take a punch. He can't just be let the Hulk beat him up, you know. So that's how I saw the fight here. Like I never really think of Homelander as like a martial artist or something like that. It's just a super strong guy that throws people and apparently punches holes through people here in this episode, and then that's that. I don't really see him as a fighter. You get what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because you don't need to be. Like, why would you need to learn like martial arts when you can literally just flick someone away? You know what I mean? So yeah,
Right.
like I
Mm-hmm.
totally agree. Totally
Mm-hmm.
agree. And kind of revisiting that whole idea of like Wonder Woman versus Superman. It's like, okay, if Batman could take on Superman, so Wonder Woman could be is fine. Wonder Woman would be fine.
No,
You
no, no,
know?
no, no. We can't even. First off, we can't put that just because of the kryptonite. Okay, that was the one advantage that Batman had in Batman v Superman. But I'm just talking like straight on head to head, hand to hand. You know what I'm saying? Just to see how it would go. And unfortunately, Bruce Wayne can't take Superman just like Maeve took Homelander here.
Mm. And just real quick, because of course, like Homelander is very much like comparable to Superman, right? Like Superman, like when they created him, it was like they got so excited because they were just buffing up his powers and his abilities, and at some point, the writers were like, "Oh crap, there's nothing we can write that's interesting because the fight ends in a page." So then
Mm-hmm.
they introduced Kryptonite, and I feel like that's like the same thing that Vought basically did with Homelander, right? They were like the writers who were just like, "Yeah, make him fly, make him this, make him that." and then they have something that they can't handle. But there is like this whole season is basically them looking for the kryptonite, and
Right.
it doesn't exist.
Right.
Doesn't exist.
There has to be like it may not exist yet, but I won't go out like say whenever the boys decide to have their series finale, whenever it decides to end, there has to be a weakness. And I won't say Ryan, even though I can see at the end Ryan being the person to take out Homelander, but there has to be something out there. Like there has to be. He can't just be all powerful. Like Vought has to come up with something.
Well, I mean, if they could find the gas that like worked on Soldier Boy, I feel like they can find or create something that would be equivalent for Homelander.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, like, I don't see this series ending with like Homelander like finishing like sitting on a throne with a
Mm-hmm.
crown, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna end up finding something. This season just wasn't the season for them to do
Right.
that, which is honestly like I didn't think it was going to end in the way that it did, being that this whole series with season was like we got to kill Homelander. So
Right.
you know, you would assume this is the objective of the season. You know, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs to getting there, but ultimately that's where we're going to end up, and we really didn't. It was almost like kind of a flip, you know.
Well, now it's to the point to where next season that's it's all or nothing because the end of this episode, Butcher said, I think the doctor said he only has 6 months. So I can imagine the next season is, I was like, I have to give Homelander everything that I have within the next 6 months. And if they don't end it next season, the only way they can't end it is if they give Butcher Compound V.
I wonder if they would.
I don't know.
They would.
Yeah.
We talked about this last time, right? We talked about this last time. Like, oh, if they were given Compound V, would they heal like the way that Kimiko did?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we said, did we say yes for Huey? There was something that yeah, because he was able to heal from his cast. Like, so let's just say Huey was the one who developed, like, you know, what basically is cancer, right?
Right.
But like, I don't think we've seen anything to suggest that part of Butcher's powers include that. So yeah, like I wonder if like even Compound V would help with his situation, you know?
Well, I feel like if anything, because this is the V24 that Starlight made clear in the last episode is basically killing people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hypothetically, if he took Compound V, I can imagine it's because it's not the same. It's taken differently. It's taken more so through the spine, and it's permanent. So if he were to take V, I think V would save him, but ultimately, I guess turn him into the person he was never trying to be.
Yeah. So yeah. I feel like, you know, based on like the Butcher we have, I feel like he would just probably take the fate of what this is. Like, and I think they said like 12 on the high end, maybe 18 months, you know?
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but it's kind of going back to where we left off in the episode though, because I know we kind of jumped around. It's a good episode, so I feel like there's so much I want to talk about. So we have of course, like the interaction between, or the situation between Huey, Butcher, and Soldier Boy, right? Because last episode, Starlight told Butcher that Compound, or I'm sorry, the
V24.
the V24 is killing them. You know, he's like, oh, we're gonna get more Compound V, and like me when I first heard it, I was like, you bastard, you know, because it was before obviously like we see him lock Huey in the bathroom,
right?
But Huey's locked in the bathroom. Butcher and Soldier Boy are on their way to basically take down Homelander. And you can see the hesitation that Soldier Boy has right now. You're not really sure which way he's going to go, nor does Huey or Butcher, you know. But since Butcher's like, there is a chance, so I'm just going to keep going if there's any chance that he can still help us take down Homelander. And then this is where Starlight picks up Huey, right?
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, and I think before this happens, we get this scene with Frenchie and Kimiko. And I like this scene a lot because it kind of touches back on something that happened earlier in the season with, you know, the comments that what is it, Nina?
Little Nina.
Little Nina made about Frenchie's like upbringing, how like his father put a leash on him, and now
Right.
it's like, who holds that leash. And I'm telling you, I love the growth that Kimiko has had in this season, because now she's the one who's helping other people kind of be like, you can be something different. Like, you're not dictated by these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the thing that you once saw in me, and it's just such a cute moment. Like, I'm just, it's so empowering, and I really like her growth. And I'm excited to see how it's going to then develop in like the next season.
Yeah. It was like she had growth, but like on it's like on the other side of the coin, it's like Frenchie almost kind of went into a decline, character wise, because I always saw Frenchie as it's like, yeah, he worked for Butcher, but I felt like he was his own man, and it was like this season to where it's like you got Butcher, you got Lil Nina, and then he kind of talks about like his dad used to do stuff, so it's like they kind of broke him down this season, but I think they broke him down for Kimiko to be a better character, and you can see that growth in her, and she was able to kind of bring him back out of that kind of negative mentality.
Yeah, yeah, and I love it because obviously like her pep talk worked, because when he does go and like they see Butcher again, and Butcher is like kind of trying to be all like commanding again, and he's like, no, I am done taking orders from you, and he's like, and
Mm-hmm.
I want healthcare, and we want dental, and we want
Mm-hmm.
vision. Like, it was just like, and then I don't know who it was, I feel like it was Starlight, who's like, okay, calm down, we get it. Like, you
Right.
you need things. But it was a cool scene. And I think I like how everyone's like arc kind of closed up in the season, and it's really just the beginning. I feel like it was like nothing really got super tied up. It's just for just traveling down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
In the car ride with Huey and Starlight, Huey makes like a kind of a comparison between, like, he's talking about his dad, and how like after like his mom was no longer there, his dad was just kind of like passive. He didn't like, he saw his dad as like weak, but then kind of looking back, he's like, he was always there.
Yeah.
Like, he was there when I needed him. And he's actually really strong, because despite the fact that he was going through a lot, like, he was
Mm-hmm.
still there for us. And I think this kind of ties back again, like, to things we're talking about for the season, which is that Huey has felt weak, and he's felt like on the sidelines, like he can't do anything and
Mm-hmm.
powerless. And so he gravitates toward like the like V24, because he's like, this is how I'm powerful, this is how I can do something.
Yeah.
But as a result, he's kind of he left Starlight alone for a lot of the season, when she really needed someone to be there.
Right.
And so I really like how this scene also like continued their story. It's like you said last episode, you were like, no matter what, they are Boo, they are Endgame, they are like, they are the moment. And that's kind of what we saw, because they definitely were able to like get back to a happy place, because they haven't really been in a really happy place this whole season.
Right. The whole season, like, I mean, because first season, uh, it was like it's like they started, they weren't necessarily like boyfriend and girlfriend. It just happens to be the situation where they meet, and then the love grows to where the season two, they were all like lovey dovey, almost inseparable. But then it came down to here. Uh, it was like we talked about it before. Everybody had their own separate mission, and everybody's on their missions. Though some of the missions were almost kind of contradicting each other. Everybody had their own missions, and with those two, Starlight and Huey, they just weren't able to really come together until this
Now.
car ride, basically.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it is. Like, kind of going back to what you said, it's like they all had like the same objective for the most part, where it's either like take down Homelander or help Homelander. But it's like they're all dealing with their own personal thing too. That it's like you said, like the path to that looks so different for so many people. And I think that the conversation that Huey had with Starlight, like, I love it, because it's like you don't have to have the powers to be powerful, and there's
Mm-hmm.
still ways for you to feel like you're contributing. You're not on the Starlight sidelines. Like, I think if it weren't for Huey, like, Starlight wouldn't have been able to kind of unlock this new level of her own power, you know. And
Right.
like at the end we see Huey, and he's like emotional. Like do you know the scene I'm talking about? Like it's like when he sees that she's flying, and then his eyes are like welling up with tears because he's
Uh, I think I remember.
it
I
was a good
like just
scene.
of that scene. I just remember honestly. I remember him turning the powers up just so like she can get juiced up a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it was cool. It was a cool scene because it reminded me of kind of like the way he looked at her in the bowling alley, you know, like just the partnership, you know, like he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to feel above her to feel powerful the same way like she's not trying to belittle him for them, you know what I mean, like to have
Mm-hmm.
that dynamic in the relationship. No, it was cool. So I'm it's nice to see them back like on good terms because it's like you said, it's like they've had this really cool like gradual story, but it's like any relationship has to have their like turmoils and their challenges. So I
Right.
feel like now that they're unified, I feel like that's going to maybe lead to their success at the end of the next season and still trying to
Gotcha.
stop Homelander, you know?
Yeah. 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 I gotcha. So where are we? We're past the car ride. Um, yeah. Tell us where we are right now.
Okay, let's see. Let's see. Well, for, MM is talking about, you know, because obviously last episode also we also talked about how MM kind of lost in front of his daughter and beat up the stepdad, and it was this whole thing. And you know now he's really just kind of marinating in it. He's of course upset with himself, but Frenchie, you know, much like how Kimiko does with him, is like you know like let her see all of you. Like you don't have to be perfect for your daughter to love you. You know, like you are broken, you are a mess. Like that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
and he does take it to heart like we see at the end of this episode. But another big thing is we see Black Noir return,
Mm-hmm.
right? This last episode I think is when we had like those cool scenes with him and his like own
His little
little world,
characters. Mm-hmm.
little characters. um and he comes back, you know, to fight Soldier Boy, but at this point Homelander knows that Soldier Boy is actually his father, so like
Right.
the cards are so different by the time he comes back.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting just because as far as Noir's story, I think I may have mentioned it um, before, and it's like Noir, though silent, he for me has given me honestly the most story here, and it may have honestly just been with the flashback in Nicaragua and then the cartoon storyline with his characters of this season. I feel like Noir had the best story, but it came down to an ending that I didn't even want. Like and before this season, I was like anti Black Noir. Like I actually kind of hated the guy because he was Team Vought, you know. But here now, you know, it's like I was kind of pulling for him, and then Amazon kind of like Game of Thrones us and just kind of took him out of the picture.
Yeah, because he kind of, you know, he ran away, right? And like his, you know, inner whatever you want to call them, like imaginary friends were like, you can do it. And it's like an inspirational thing. And he comes out of like I think he was like hiding in like a laundromat. I don't know. But wherever he was hiding from, he goes back and he's ready to fight despite the fact that they don't have much of a chance. Like he's sharpening a sword that no matter how much he sharpens it is never going to penetrate like Soldier Boy's skin, but he's there, you know, he's ready
Right.
to face it. So like you are kind of rooting for him at that point because you realize he's been, you know, he's been through a lot, like at the
Right.
hands of Soldier Boy, in the Battle of Nicaragua, and like now. But you know, the moment that you see Homelander kind of embrace him, I kind of knew we were gonna get something like what we ended up with because at this point, it's like he feels so abandoned and betrayed. Black Noir was one of those people that he thought was really on his side,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, regardless of the fact that he came back, and on top of it, he now knows that Soldier Boy is his father, someone that Black Noir also betrayed. It's like, I don't know. I wasn't surprised by the ending, but I was upset with it. I was like, oh, come on. Like, he was, I was hoping for him to turn around. I was even maybe thinking he may have ended up on, like, Starlight and Huey's side at some point, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So
Yep.
I am upset that his story ended there, that he died the way that he did, you know?
Right, just because at this point you didn't know where the fight was gonna go. You didn't know if Soldier was gonna actually fight Homelander or if he was gonna team up with Homelander with the whole news of him being the dad. So if anything, by the end of this episode, I thought it was gonna be Dave versus Team Vought along with Soldier Boy. That's what
Yeah,
I thought this was gonna go.
yeah, like I wish we saw him in the fight. Like I do wish that he actually was able to face Soldier Boy, you know. But I think in terms of his storyline, I feel like it still closes it off because he was ready for it, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what counts in his story. But I agree, I'm upset with that. But I do like that his imaginary friends like were with him to the end. You
Right.
know, they're like we're
Right.
proud of you no matter what.
Okay. So he gets punched in the stomach through his back from Homelander. So Noir is out of the picture. And then Homelander has a meeting at Vought. Are we here yet? Like, are we at this point where he has a meeting with the rest of, like, with Deep, A-Train, and Ashley?
We have just a couple things before that. I mean, A Train meets with his brother. His brother basically tells him to like f off, wants nothing to
Right.
do with him. Let's see.
Let me ask you a question real quick. When it comes down to A-Train and his brother, A-Train thought he was doing the right thing by avenging his brother because Blue Hawk paralyzed him in the little scuffle. Do you think the brother's wrong or right for feeling the way that he feels?
I mean, he wasn't wrong in like calling out A Train for having always been selfish. It's always been about you. This isn't about me. Like this vengeance isn't about me. And it's I think he's fair in believing that what he believes. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but then we're also seeing the bigger picture of like I think A Train is in a completely different point because he's basically like, you know, I'm about to get everything I've been wanting this entire season, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much,
Mm-hmm.
and I really don't want it if I don't have you by my side. You know, like
Right.
I think he's been through like I think this season has really put him through a life changing thing. Like maybe the way we thought Black Noir was gonna end up on the side of Huey, like maybe that's what we're gonna see next season. Is like maybe A Train's gonna switch sides, like for real this time. You know?
I doubt it.
Uh,
I doubt it.
I,
I
I
don't believe in A-Train, honestly. I don't.
Hey, I don't blame you. Like, there's been so many times that we thought that maybe he was gonna make a turn, like just this season. Like he's the
Right.
reason that I
Supersonic.
kept, yeah, that Supersonic is dead. So you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I have no like disputes with you feeling like it may not happen. I'm just thinking like I think this season is different in the challenges that it gave A Train, and that I think they have the potential to actually changing him, especially now that his brother is like, I'm not on your side. I'm
Right.
done with you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like the brother is right to feel like the way he is because it's like you kind of said, like historically, A Train has been selfish. He really doesn't think outside of himself. So why would his brother assume that his actions were anything other than just that selfish? Like have really nothing to do with really wanting to avenge, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's see. It's okay. Let's see. Oh, we do get this. I actually do really want to talk about this scene. So we have Butcher and Soldier Boy. And this is where Soldier Boy's kind of talking a little bit about his past. You know, the story was, you know, Soldier Boy, like from the poor streets of whatever and risen and all these things. But he pretty much says that's not true. He's like, I was rich. I was in a boarding school.
Right.
But my dad hated me. Like, I was a disappointment. And, you know, he found out, or he was able to, you know, do these trials, right, for Compound V. He becomes a hero. But even then, his dad's like, you copped out,
cheated,
you know?
basically.
Yeah, like you cheated.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this scene because you know, I think in some scenes that are kind of come again, it's kind of like a parallel in the two, right? With the whole lineage of these like father son relationships that they have. But he's, you know, talking then about Homelander, right? Because he's like, oh, like I've always wanted a son because I feel like I would have been so much better than my dad at it, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And Butcher's like, he's not your son. Stick to the plan. We had a deal, you know?
Right.
Let's see.
In this conversation, I'm sorry, cut you off. Just when it came down to it, when he was talking about going off to do these trials, I honestly read that as him and his team the original team that Noir was on, and Butcher. The only thing they have in common is that they took the V, no matter what shape or form, compound V or V24, voluntarily, because everybody else, they weren't really given a choice. Like Starlight's mom secretly signed her up for this, and I think that was the story for everyone else. And Kimiko, she was just an experiment, just so she can become like eventually become a supervillain, and of course that's not how it panned out. So I think just like when he was telling the story is like, oh, now I'm like the superhero and my dad told me that I took the easy way out. I don't know why that just sparked in my mind. I was just like, oh well, just thinking about it, he and his team and Butcher were really the only ones that kind of like volunteered for this type of situation.
That chose that.
Yeah.
Chose that path. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no, you're totally right. You're totally right. And I think it's I don't know. Speaking of that scene, I feel like because there's so much parallels, obviously with Soldier Boy and like Captain America,
Mm-hmm.
it made me think of like when Captain America was like enlisting for like the army and volunteering for like the super soldier like project and things like that too.
Yeah.
Like obviously it's just a different thing because it's like they were giving it to all of them, you know.
Yeah.
And I think from here we get to, let me see.
Let me wait. Hold on, random. Did Steve Rogers know he was signing up for a super soldier program?
He didn't know at the beginning. They were kind of like he just knew he was signing up for like like a special division of it, right? Because when he spoke to the doctor, he kind of gave him like the super vaguest thing, but I don't think Steve really cared because he's like, I've been enlisted, you know, that's all I care.
It's like, I'm small, but I'm here and I'm ready to serve.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, obviously it's like, because I think it was one of the guys, like the generals wanted this other beefy dude because he's like, he looks like a soldier, he does what he's told, etc. And so, yeah, and it wasn't, I think, until they chose him that they really told him what it was all about, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I think we're at that part that you're talking about.
The office scene?
Let's see. Hold on, man. Oh, well, before that, I think we do get the scene that we talked about earlier with like Butcher, Maeve, and Frenchie. Maeve leaves with like Butcher, and now we get into like the Vought scene because I think this is where, yeah, they see Starlight's voice message and they want to evacuate, but then like Homelander kind of addresses each of them like, nope, that's not what we're gonna do.
Right.
You're gonna do X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
Oh, and they did. Frenchie did come up with like a concoction in a perfume bottle, and it was the original, I guess, chemical that knocked Soldier Boy out in Russia, and they were hoping to do the same here. And Maeve kind of threw that out the window. She was like, "Nah, the only way to take care of whatchamacallit, Homelander is to take care of Homelander. Like, don't beat around the bush." You know what I'm saying? So I respected her for that because she just like read Crimson Chin. Like she hated Homelander, you know, so she was done playing around. She's like, okay, all right, nah, I'm tossing that and we're going in, you know. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, and then let's see, and then they get thrown in the safe.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's right.
Like, the safe. They dim down the light, and I do love how Butcher had that line of like, "Oh, we dim the lights because she gets her powers from the lights." Because I think it sets up the rationale behind what Huey did and how that was able to kind of help unlock Starlight's.
And I never got that, and I don't think I got that throughout any season so far, you know. So I think that was the first like thing, like as far as like a source of her power. Like it was always her eyes turned yellow and lights flickered, but we didn't know that it was necessarily like one thing, you know. Like she needs the lights to have her powers.
I didn't pick it up either, and I honestly thought like when Butcher said it initially, I thought he was saying it to like say protect them, to be like, oh, don't you worry, like since the lights are dim, like she can't do anything, almost like just to make Soldier Boy like kind of not really pay mind to them,
Right.
or see them as a threat to the plan, because then he might just want to take them out just to be on the safe side, So I thought that too, and so I thought it was cool though, then seeing kind of how they use the lights at the end, how they kind of not foreshadowed, but they kind of set that rule in place,
Yeah.
for it to make sense. And here in like the VOT meeting that they had,
Hmm.
this is where, like they want to evacuate, and then they talk about using Noir as bait, right? The deep kind of suggests this, and this is where Homelander places Black Noir's mask on the table.
Don't mind me. I'm setting up something real quick. Keep going.
Oh, okay. um, let's see, and this
Right.
is when he
Sets
kind of
the
states
Black
his.
Noir mask on the table. You said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so people know that he's dead. They're like, oh, what
Right.
happened? He's like, oh, he didn't tell me something, and now he's gone.
Hmm.
And this is where he said, like, I wanted my team to be like my family that I never had, and then I got you guys. Homelander tells the Deep to do something that's, basically treason, which is, as we know, like kill the
Right.
politician running for vice president.
Right.
He tells Ashley to take off her wig just to kind of belittle her. And then he tells A-Train that he needs to unify all of us. Like, how dare you kill off another soup?
Right. Say in this meeting though, it's like I get that Homelander is on some is like I asked for a team and this is what y'all got me or gave me, but this team initially, with everybody in the initial seven when it came down before Starlight, they had their invisible guy and then everybody else. It was dysfunctional, but it's who Vought chose and everybody that they chose. It was a parallel to the Justice League, so it's like a team that like should have worked, but didn't.
Yeah, and I think it's like, because Homelander, again, like, he just wants, like, love and friends and family, and he gets people who do what he wants because
Hmm.
they're scared, but not because they have, like, a genuine loyalty to him, you
Right.
know? I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I talked about this, I think, with Peacemaker also, but I feel like it's like the Michael Scott complex, where it's like he wants, like, his coworkers to be his family and things like that. It's just he's just looking for that same longing.
Right. I get
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and so
Mhm.
it's like I don't know. It's like, of course, you can see Homelander's positioning, but obviously it's like he's so far down like the rabbit hole of insanity that it's still kind of hard to have like a lot of empathy for him. But I think it sets the pace for where, say, someone like Ryan is, because Ryan, I think, is similar, where he wants family, love, acceptance, and I think it showcases like how where Ryan's future could end up unless there's intervention in like the next season.
Yeah. But say now that we're here, kind of going into the conclusion of this episode, fighting aside, when it comes down to the future of Ryan and Ryan choosing a Homelander, the only thing that I can see from this is yes, he's choosing now a quote unquote father figure, right? A figure that he hasn't had his whole life because it's been his mom and then the CIA woman. Butcher was kind of in the picture, but not really. Uh, it's like I can see him now, kind of looking up to Homelander. Initially, he hated Homelander last season, but now it's like he looks up to him. And if worse comes to worse, the only thing that I wouldn't want to see become of him would be for him to turn into a Brightburn situation.
I was about to say he looks like that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think especially like the way at the end of the episode, when he's presented to like the crowd of Homelanders,
Mm-hmm.
um,
The
like that's
family, Homelander
yeah, like
family. Mm-hmm.
that's exactly the feeling that I got. Like, was he wearing a red sweater in this, like, at the end of this episode?
That I don't remember.
I don't know why. Like, for me, like, it was like, I feel like it just gave me a parallel evil of like of that, and also for some reason like the kid from Insidious. So it's like I feel like we're gonna see him go evil a little bit because he's with Homelander. Like he's already
Mm-hmm.
so impressionable.
Right.
He has all these powers. I don't know. Like I don't want Ryan to go full on evil, but I'm afraid that's where we're gonna end up.
I feel like if anything, the only person that can save Ryan is Butcher. Is just Butcher's just gonna have to put his butcher ways to the side and show him that Butcher can be a loving person, because that's what it is. Butcher, it doesn't know how to show love, basically because of his dad. So
Yeah.
he basically kind of keeps that to himself. But if there is a way that Butcher can unlock that in his heart and show that to Ryan, it's like, listen, I know we're having like an emotional piece right here in this episode, but yeah, like, say if it came down to it, I feel like that would be the only way that Ryan can come back and then eventually become good.
The generational trauma in this season is so real.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of which, we get that confrontation finally with Homelander, Soldier Boy, and because this episode is really like a teeter totter. Like, okay, like, is he going to choose Homelander? Is he still going to stick to the original plan? And honestly, like, I really was on the side of thinking, like, I thought Soldier Boy was really going to line up with Homelander, but Homelander really extends his arm out. He's like open, and he's like, we need you, family, and like he introduces him to Ryan, and Soldier Boy basically tells him exactly what his father told him, like, you are weak, you are a disappointment,
Right.
and I wish I was able to raise you because maybe you wouldn't be such a
Yeah.
so messed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
And honestly, I like that. Just it's not because of, honestly, it's not surprising coming from Soldier Boy, just the way that he's been talking this whole entire season. Like, it was, I don't know, a few episodes ago to where he was like walking through the woods with Huey, and he's like, how good did Butcher do that to you in order for you to just keep looking back? And now, like, oh, and what he said something else that I thought was pretty funny. Like, Huey said something. He's like, you need to lay off the weed, and he was
Yeah.
like, you should like suck this or some shit like that, So Soldier Boy has a potty mouth, and then now here in this episode, it was expected, but I feel like if anything, it was nothing but the truth, because at the end of the day, he was just pointing out the flaws of Homelander, and if anything, you could still see that no matter how strong Homelander is, I feel like if we're gonna talk weaknesses, verbal jabs are always going to just be the weakness of Homelander, because anybody could just throw something just to borderline make him cry, or like just to hurt him, and the only person that's really good at that, I believe, is Stan Edgar. So I'm hoping he's still in the picture in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, especially because here it's like he thinks he's about to get something he's been wanting, right? Family, he has Ryan now. Like, this would be a complete, like, package, like he'd have
Mm-hmm.
his little army, like, nothing could stop them, like he said. And so then Soldier Boy denying him that. But in addition, just like throwing these jabs of, like, you are weak
Mm-hmm.
and your disappointment is basically just reiterating everything he's been hearing
Yeah.
his whole life that he thought maybe was going to get fixed now that he has a father, right?
Right.
And it's, yeah, and then Soldier Boy pretty much became exactly his father, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's, he's like, oh, I'm going to be different than my dad. I'm not going to be my dad, but he basically is.
Yeah.
Um,
But say the only thing now, we just hope that now between Homelander and Ryan, that their relationship is not like that. Hopefully in some way, regardless of how Homelander is mentally, hopefully he could believe he's a good father and try to do some good by Ryan.
I feel like he sees Ryan like as him, like as an extension of him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think that Homelander does have ended with him just kind of like blasting like the head of that one protester,
Right.
like things like that, like displaying just kind of his powers in a way that just belittles like anyone who doesn't have powers, or even people who do have powers. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be the way that he kind of messes up Ryan. But I don't know, based on what we're seeing in the based on how we've understand like Homelander's like psyche, I don't think that he'd be one to say verbally belittle him the way that
Right.
Soldier Boy did to him, or how
Mm-hmm.
Soldier Boy's father did to him, etc.
Sure. Yeah. Um, let's move on to just I guess the fight scene, because we gotta wrap this show up real quick before we move on to Miss Marvel.
Yes.
So, the fight ensues. As of right now, it's Maeve, Team Maeve, Soldier Boy, and Butcher. They're all in Vought Tower at the Vought news station, fighting. Who are they fighting besides Homelander? Is there more? Because I feel like there's two fights going on.
There's a
Oh,
couple
it
things
was
happening.
Soldier actually attacked Ryan, and then Butcher. That's where it's like Butcher actually cares for him, you know. So it's like you see that he cares for him. So it's just like, all right, Butcher now attacks Soldier Boy. So you have Butcher, Soldier Boy in one room, and then you have Maeve and Homelander in the other room.
Yes,
And
and then
go ahead.
no, and then we have like the other team of Kimiko and Frenchie getting the serum, and then we have Huey kind of being like the man in the chair, right? Because he's
Mm-hmm.
like in the videos, all those things. And ultimately, like Starlight comes and joins the fight with Soldier Boy, because at some point Butcher kind of gets knocked down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have kind of like three different segments or missions happening at the same time. And each of them I think was executed so well. Like Kimiko's scene when she's
She's
puts
dancing
on
and
like the
stuff like that. Yeah. Yep.
that was
Mm-hmm.
so good. She
Yep.
puts on the headphones, she's jamming like she's just about to go on a nice jog.
Right.
you
She's like, I
know?
got my powers back, and I might as well get my groove
Oh,
on while I'm taking these folks out.
she's so cool. That
Mm-hmm.
was done so well. And then Starlight has Huey and Starlight had their moment in this with with the scene that we kind of talked about already,
Mm-hmm.
where she flies and just like knocks down Soldier Boy,
Mm-hmm.
and Maeve is fighting with Homelander, and like Homelander gouges out her eye,
Yeah.
leaves her looking like Thor. um,
But
and
like say it and just to kind of touch that, it was like besides flight and laser vision, I like hand to hand, Maeve and Soldier Boy. It's a good fight, and that's what brought the whole conversation up earlier between Wonder Woman and Superman. You know, like because if anybody like say the way that fight ensued, uh, like Homelander, I was gonna say Soldier Boy, but Homelander, he's like, listen, I don't have time for this, you know. So of course I'm thinking like he's just kind of waving her off, and he's like, you wouldn't expect Maeve to do the damage that she did, you know. Like I wouldn't have thought that, you know. But she put up a brand not a brand new fight, but a good
a good
fight,
fight.
and she was able to do some damage. She may have made him deaf in one ear. Like she stuck something in his ear, so now he's kind of bleeding out of an ear, you know. So um, after that fight, they all had to come together. Well, not unfortunately, but come together to take out Soldier Boy. It went from everybody versus Homelander to everybody versus Soldier Boy, which I don't know. Like by the end of the season, I kind of liked Soldier Boy and his character. You know, I felt like if anything, he was just a worse version of Butcher. You know, like just like another version of Butcher. I don't know. That's how I kind of.
I know what you're saying, because I feel like I agree. He's I don't know. I liked his character. I feel like his scenes were so funny, like the way that he would kind of talk shit to like everybody, and like the banter and all of that kind of stuff. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like of course, we saw him with the vengeance and killing all these people, but it's because he is like on a streak of vengeance, right? Like
Right.
he was taken away by like the was it Russians? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
Russians, and experimented on, etc. And so I mean, if say once that was done and the conflict was over, like I think we're just left with a really not a nice dude, but not sociopathic the way that
Right.
Homelander is,
Right.
So it's I feel like it ended up just it turning the way that it did, but also it's like because then he was trying to take out Ryan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so we see him like charging, and Maeve sees like her opportunity, and she kind of takes him out of the window to protect everyone.
Right.
You kind of think that she's dead, and like the news kind of supports that, like, oh, the fallen Maeve,
Yeah.
proud lesbian, like all these things, and then but ultimately she's just now powerless.
Right. Mm-hmm. Um. So now I think it ends with Soldier Boy. He's back on ice. But where's the rest of the boys?
So we have Ryan leaves with Homelander. Butcher gets to the terminal. Basically, his
All
like
right, he's at the doctor. Yeah.
yeah, 12 to 18 months. has this like really nice moment with his daughter, just kind of just being honest. Like, I'm a flawed person, but I want you to know, like, the reality is, like, not all superheroes are good, and Homelander is the worst. And like, also I think talking to her about his and their like the lineage, like, this was your grandfather and he fought hard to do X, Y, and Z. And actually, before I continue with where the rest of the boys are, something I liked was, after Starlight kind of knocks down Soldier Boy for a moment and they pin him down, I love how was the one to place like the gas on his face, and he kind of has a moment of just like redemption, right? Because he's just like, this is for my family and all these things. Like, I love that moment for and I think, then leading to here and how it finishes up, I like how his journey through the season ended up.
I don't like it.
What? Dude.
Just because of everybody in the TV studio, like, he needs to be in the lab helping Frenchie. Like, when it's like a room full of soups fighting, he unfortunately is the weakest one, the weakest person.
Yeah.
And by that, and I'm not talking weak, he's more liable to get hurt. You know what I'm saying? So him being there, he's like, yeah, let me have my moment. Let me gas Soldier Boy. But at the same time, it's like, you for real lucked out. You in the room? Yeah, you lucked out. He could have just turned over and just like that, it would have been over for NM.
So I stand by my thing. I like that he got to be the one to put the mask on. But something, I so agree. It's like, hold on, who let you in the room?
Right.
You're like, okay, I see it now. This is kind of like I'm forgetting his name, but it's like the cab driver from Deadpool when he's like sprinting alongside the
right,
suits.
Right.
What are you doing? Like, stay back in the car.
Yep.
So, okay. Yes. Yes. Totally see that. So we leave Maeve, who's alive, no powers. She leaves with Elena. So they're kind of just trying to stay away from Homelander, out of the spotlight. But we find out that Ashley know that Maeve's alive. And so they may not be as safe as they think. However, I wonder, and I'm kind of curious to your perspective on it. Like, I feel like the way that Ashley, when she looked at the tape, and also she looked at the other Ashley, I feel like it was in a sensation of like, oh, she's alive, and then delete the information so no one else knows to keep her safe. That's kind of how I received it. But how do you feel about it?
That I'm not entirely sure, just because honestly, I didn't even see it. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see that part. I don't know what happened.
Oh, okay. Did you just stop watching the episode, or do you mean you forgot the scene?
That I thought I made it all the way through to the credits, but apparently I guess I missed a part, or if not, I may have blinked. I may have went to go grab some chips or like some water or something. Stepped into the kitchen. I missed that part.
Any of it. Yeah. But so Ashley and her assistant know that Maeve is alive, but to delete the evidence. And I think the way that the scene looks, and especially with just kind of the little moments we've had with Ashley, she's obviously not happy, but she does what she does because she doesn't really have a choice, And when they had knocked out Maeve in like the vault before moving her, like, she felt bad for having to knock her out, like, you can see that those little moments that they had. Yeah. So I think that was kind of what that scene was showcasing. So who knows how that's gonna pan out. Soldier Boy is still alive, but he's back in his like in his Winter Soldier lockdown thing.
Yep.
Starlight gets rid of her suit. Um, the Deep is watching his wife kind of promote her tell-all book, if you will. He's like crying in his room.
Yeah, I miss all of this. I don't know what happened. I'm gonna have to go back and maybe watch
This
the
wasn't
last
even like
like
an end
five
credit
minutes,
scene.
the last 5 minutes of this episode because honestly, after the last thing I remember is Maeve hugging it out with Starlight, and then from there I was like, okay,
Done.
that's the end. I missed a whole lot. The only reason why I know Soldier Boy's on ice is because somebody posted it on Instagram like a picture. So I was like, okay, I missed that part. Maybe it was a post credit scene,
Did
but
you like
apparently
was it?
I don't know. Listen, whenever I saw it, I may have been busy. I may have actually had to leave. I've been super busy. I'm not gonna lie.
You got a
So,
life, you know.
yep,
It is what it is. It is what
yep,
it is.
yep.
Well, then the last couple of things. So Starlight gets rid of her suit. We see that Victoria is actually the new candidate for vice president, which is what you can assume was the trade, right? I give you
Hmm.
the location of your son. Now I'm in a place of power, right? Because they had taken out the other guy who was
Right
in for vice
in the pool.
president.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, this is a big thing that I think is going to set the stage for the next season. Homelander introduces Ryan to like the world. This one guy, throws something that hits Ryan, and then he lasers him down. Homelander is kind of in a moment of like, oh crap, I did this in public.
All right, wait,
But
hold on. But so before you go forward, okay,
yes,
here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna call it right now on the boys. I want to watch this, okay? I don't want because right now this is spoiler talk, and if somebody threw something at Ryan, I actually want to see it first before we recap it. So
okay,
by
we'll
next
get
week
there.
we may have to recap the last 5 minutes of this episode, just so I can actually have some input, and then we can move on. Do we have anything? Uh, we can talk about here. We're gonna have a meeting about that later.
We have
But
our birthday celebration. What are you talking about?
that's true. But I know
But we can do it at
Comic
the
Con's
start.
this week as well, and I just saw like a few things drop, so we can kind of recap some Comic Con stuff next week. But I'm sorry, y'all. I had to cut that. She was going into some things. I was like, wait, this
What is
happened?
this?
What?
I
So.
had like two more words in my sentence, so we didn't miss anything. You rewatch, and then next time we'll
Yep.
like revisit it.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right, but we are going to move on. We're moving on to the last episode of Miss Marvel. Yep.
Yep, we're there.
Yep, we're here. Okay, so the reason why I was kind of scrambling over here earlier in this episode is because I wanted to pull up the ranking of the TV shows, the MCU TV shows. So by the end of this recap, we can place her wherever she lands. Okay?
Yes.
All right, so when did you see this episode?
This one I actually watched. I don't not last night, but the night before. I watched this one this week.
Okay.
Yeah. So I watched Homelander before leaving, and then I watched this one just a little bit earlier this week. So this one's a little bit more fresh.
Yeah, I think I saw it on Tuesday or Wednesday, so slightly more fresh. Slightly. All right, so this episode it picks up kind of almost where we left off. I think Bruno and Kamran they're on the run from the. I'm never gonna get this organization right. I think of
Damage
letters. It's just like DODC. No.
And the acronyms are DODC, but they kind of just refer to it as damage control.
I got it.
Yes!
Oh
I
man.
love how you looked like through your crowd of people in your room. It was so good.
Because right now, besides DODC, I'm thinking about SDCC right now, so that's the San Diego Comic Con. So, like, all these letters are kind of going through my mind right now, so I got it, the DODC. So, they're being chased, and we're kind of seeing more of Kamran's powers, and it's like they're similar to Kamala's.
Kamala. Mm-hmm.
But I'm still lost in A, how he got it, B, why his are similar, just a different color, Like, is that, I think, just the powers of the Jinn, Is it just that? Or, like, kind of shed some light on why his looks so similar to hers.
So in the comics, it's something completely different because first of all, she's a polymorph, right? She's
Right.
able to kind of extend her limbs the same way that Mr. Fantastic can. And his
Mm-hmm.
powers, it's he has like this blue hue. He's able to kind of extend these things. He kind of his powers almost look like the Iceman like
Okay.
power guy.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not ice. They just kind of look like that visually. Here they look like I agree, like pretty much identical to Kamala's powers, just a little different in like the visual of it, where the color I think is meant to be an homage to his original story in the
Mm-hmm.
comics.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, it's like I can't really tell you what they are because he can't really jump like the way she does. He
Right.
can't really extend them like limbs the way she does. They kind of look a little bit more like an energy force, right? Because there's a point where he kind of is like pulsating something that's affecting the crowd and then she kind of shields him from it, so it's not definitive like what his powers really are.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because we haven't given him the chance to really hone in on them, right? This is like within 24 hours of getting them, like it took Kamala 6 episodes,
Right.
But in terms of all the questions, like I think it's just to set the pace of this episode, the breakdown of this episode is like we did not get clarity on any of the things that we were looking to get clarity on,
Nothing.
apart from the one little thing. And I'm jumping around
Go
here.
ahead and jump because I'm ready to jump towards the end right now. If you're gonna bring up what I think you're about to bring up, which I was kind of salty with how they brought up something, but let's see. What are you about
Yeah,
to
that's
say?
what it is. That's what it is. I know we're on the same page. So it's we were all kind of anticipating or thinking that what the MCU was loading up was that they were going to bring in Inhumans as part of the vocabulary of what Kamala is, her origins, etc., and explaining not just her powers but also like the Jinn.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, they give us the reveal that she has a mutation, and that's why she has powers, and her family does it, and all of these things. And so I'm excited for one that we're using the word mutants, right? Because the last time we heard it wasn't a Sony property, so it wasn't like as big of a hit
We
as
didn't.
like the
Yeah, they didn't
MCU.
even use the term in Doctor Strange. They were just like, "Here's
Exactly.
Professor Xavier,"
Yeah. So
and
it's,
what is
in
he?
some degree, in some degree, it's kind of fun and exciting that we're hearing this word of mutation because it gives us the momentum to maybe see like some of the old faces and getting like more direct story from them because the X-Men are really something that we're all like super excited to see come on screen. But I don't know. I didn't really like it because I feel like
I didn't I
yeah.
didn't like it just because I I don't use the word cheap often unless something's cheap, like if I'm buying it, but like I feel like that was like a cheap way to bring in mutants, and after all of this talk about the Jinn and the clandestine, it's like, who is Kamala really, and now it's come to find out uh she has a mutation, so now she's a mutant. It's weird. It's weird that they did that, and now it's just like, are now the story of mutants, the introduction of mutants have to it now has to deal with the question of how are they related to her people, the Jinn, the Noors, like all that.
The thing is the way that this ended because Bruno's like, oh, I looked back into your genealogy to kind of see what's going on because I think it was her brother who was like, oh, do I also have powers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that, oh, the reason that you have these powers is because you have a mutation.
Mm-hmm.
However, does that mean Kamran also has a mutation? But then it's like, first of all, I don't know. It's like it's kind of a mess here because I feel like the way that they define mutants and they define Inhumans are very particular. Like I believe part of like the definition of Inhumans is that it's something that has to be unlocked versus
Right.
mutation is something that's already
They need a catalyst, right? And like
yes.
throughout all of the talks that we've talked with everybody with their powers, uh like let's say for Wanda's catalyst was the Mind Stone, and that's pretty much what unlocked her to becoming the Scarlet Witch. And now when it comes to Inhumans, we've talked about it many times before. It's the Terrigen crystal that turns into a mist, and then that's how they get their powers. Like they have the gene through birth, but they can't access it without the Terrigen crystal. Now, when it comes to mutants are the only ones that we know of that are born with powers and don't have a catalyst. They just have it from birth, you know. And I think it's really until a certain age to where they start to develop those powers. So we're here, and with Kamala, she now, if she has this quote unquote mutation, is it the bangle that is the catalyst for her? And is the bangle the reason why Kamran can't control his powers? Does he need a bangle himself? It's just a lot of questions that just like you said, left unanswered here in this last episode.
And I feel like, if anything, like the way this episode, because I think what we talked about it last time, there's a lot of things we felt are uneasy, like the way they treated time travel, the seemingly unlimited amount of power that Kamala seems to have, from time travel to um, almost like psychic abilities, with the abilities to see kind of these visions, and of course, like just the hard lights. It's like, it seems like there's a never ending degree of what her powers do, and there's no really definitive outline of what they are. So there's that, and also with like the back and forth of, with like the clandestines, the jinn, and like the dimension. It's like it's almost as if like you expect it to be like you have questions, and you start to get an understanding, and you kind of get to this epiphany towards the end. But I feel like they did it so differently, where it's like you get the big reveal in episode 2 or 3, but then ever since episode 2 or 3, the information we received from then isn't clearing things up and giving us more.
There's
It's
no
almost like
none,
contradicting.
like no clear up at all. It's just like you're giving us so much information, but yet none of it. It's like you basically gave us Phase 4 in one show, because we've been talking, or at least I've been talking about how Phase 4 is just left everything unanswered, and now in this whole show you're giving us all this stuff, and nothing that you've given us has a conclusion. There's nothing, no definitive answer to anything that we've asked in the last 6 episodes of the show.
Yeah, and like something else, just because this obviously gave us like a little bit of a flashback before going into the episode, and so when we were looking at the flashback, and reviewing the scene where Kamala's great grandmother is talking to her, like, oh, you made it, like, please find X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, so it seems like the great grandmother used the bangle to summon a relative to come into the present to then take her daughter. It's like, okay, like that's some severe power.
Mm-hmm.
How it's just none of it. Yeah, I don't know. It's like none of it ties nicely in a way that I'm like, oh my god, that's so cool. Like, I'm all for changing up the storyline. Like, we were actually really liking this original take that they were doing with Kamala's powers. Like, we were really into it up until really these last few episodes. We were like, instead of like making this into this great like crescendo, and like understand like the way that what's that Moon Knight did, right? Like, we were lost up until the end, and even at the end we had questions, but it's like the majority of our understanding was clear enough that we felt good with the series. This wasn't really that. It just wasn't really that,
It wasn't. And like, I wanted to listen. I gave this show a chance, okay? Just because it's in the MCU, and I love everything related to this universe. And as far as the story goes, right? You don't the Inhumans in Universe 838, and all we're gonna get is Black Bolt. Great, okay, fine. Now you're telling us that she's part of a race that has so many names, from Jinn, the Moors, clandestine, all that. Okay, let her be that. And now this episode ends. It's like, not only that, it's you have a mutation as well, you know. And then she played it off. She was like, it's gonna have a name eventually, so what, you know. And I get that she was kind of playing off like of the mutant name that we are gonna get eventually, but just to say the word mutation, especially giving us everything that you've given us, it was honestly, I think it was the wrong time. I feel like this episode, if anything, it could have ended with a little like the last two episodes. It could have ended with a little bit more from the older woman, because we were still kind of baffled at how that storyline of clandestine ended in episode 5, and now it was just her, like you mentioned, her versus DODC in this episode. You know, so I wish we could have got more of her versus the older woman, and then if anything, if it came down to it, uh, her versus Kamran, you know, because Kamran's connected to his mom, of course, you know. That would have been a storyline to me to where I feel like it could have made this season finale a little bit better. But this season finale, for me, in comparison to just the other season finales that we have on Disney Plus, I do want to say it fell short. Just because, if anything, one person that wasn't even in the whole entire show until the very end was the main DODC guy that we got in Spider-Man No Way Home. And we get him in one episode of this, and then here he's just one phone call away. He's not even there at the high school. It was a little everywhere. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I just feel like one of the things that keeps bothering me is like the whole aspect of like the origin of Kamala, because it's just it's inconsistent. Like, is it that like we get an explanation with Kamran's mom in that because you're a clandestine djinn and you're in this universe and the bangle's here, and when you attach the bangle, you can unlock the powers. Cool, we could have rolled with that and then maybe get better understanding of what that means and how that looks. But instead, it's like it seems like all the information we've gotten since then, it doesn't add to it. It's almost as if we're supposed to pretend like we didn't hear that, and then I don't know. None of it feels like it's building. It's just
The purple people. Where are the purple people with the light eyes from episode 1? Like when she first put on the bangle, she was taken to a place of beings. Where are those people? You know, we did. It was like one and done. It's like, here you get to fall back. Boom. Here you're here now. Boom. Now you're back at AvengerCon. So
we got no clarity on like the scroll hand.
right.
Nothing.
Nope.
It's just like, I don't know. I feel like they did so much good stuff that just never delivered. And then they just jumped and added something to the end that I think they thought would have been like, wow. But it's like, but you didn't connect anything. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you would have, if they wanted to end with the mutation thing, I feel like they could have done it in a way where we're like, wow, like that was really cool how they changed her origin. And I'm cool with where it landed. But I feel like it was like, all right, we did this and now we're here, but all the middle stuff is just string, you know, but nothing connects. Like, I don't know. I think they had potential. I will say that with the reveal, something I thought was kind of cute is that when they mention mutation, you do get little, like, notes from the TV series.
the actual song played in, like, I don't know what the instrument is, but you can hear it in a lot of those like Middle Eastern music. It's a string instrument, but they ended up playing the X-Men theme song. But I feel like, honestly, if it comes to that song, I felt more of excitement in hearing those notes in Doctor Strange than I did here.
Oh, totally, absolutely, absolutely. I like it. You know, I just like that they brought it back. I thought that was cool. It just wasn't really deserved. I don't know. It didn't make me super excited, apart from the fact that I'm like, okay, we're still getting momentum from mutations. It just doesn't give me more for her story that I was really invested in, you know, starting out.
Sure.
And I think the whole kind of her just being like, you know, whatever it is, the mutation, the djinn, whatever, it's just another label. Like, I'm just me, and then that's fine. Like, you know, it's not that I mind the message of that. It's just I don't know. It's everywhere. Like nothing has resolution. Like I feel like this could have been so beautifully done, and they could have done it because then you look at Moon Knight, who has such a complex storyline with such a complex and severe like disorder,
Mm-hmm.
and so confusing, but yet we were able to feel like enough clarity with that story that we really do like we really love what they did with that, but
Yeah.
yet you can't do that with this, you know.
Yeah. There's a reason why a few of these shows are nominated for Emmys today, you know? So,
Mm-hmm.
say when it comes down to uh, this, to Miss Marvel, it was fun. I'll say
It was,
that.
yeah.
It was a fun show. It wasn't there for me there was no real serious factors, and uh by the end of this episode, which I actually did see, we got a cameo from Carol Danvers, you know. So that is like, if anything, our first show to have a brand new character connected to a movie character. Because of course, everything that we've seen so far are characters that we've seen in the movies gone to a TV show, but now we see Carol Danvers here for the first time. It's like, okay, so now this can now push us forward into the movie The Marvels.
Which we expected, yeah, like we talked about that for sure. Like I feel like that's something that we were hoping to get connected, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And in regards to that, like, so one of the things I did enjoy about that scene where, you know, I see we've jumped to the very end, but you know, Miss Captain Marvel, I'm sorry, Kamala's in her room, and then all of a sudden she gets like switched out for Carol Danvers.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the comics, I believe it is in her first issue, as part of her shape-shifting ability, or just like polymorphic ability, she is able to shapeshift, and so she kind of subconsciously shifts into Carol Danvers, and we did talk about this in the first episode.
Mm.
And part of that is meant to represent, you know, her inner feelings, that her as a brown girl from New Jersey isn't the look of what a superhero is. So intrinsically, she kind of transformed fully into Captain Marvel until
Mm-hmm.
she realized, you know, like me as I am, I'm good enough to be a superhero. And then we see her kind of in the get up that we normally see her in. So that was kind of an homage to that origin story. But here now again, it adds something different because it's not that she shapeshifted into Captain Marvel. She traded places with Captain
Right,
Marvel. Is
wherever
what
she
it
was, you know.
Yes. Yeah, and that's what that's how I at first I thought it was a shapeshift, but it's very evident that it's actually the real Carol Danvers that we're
Right,
seeing in her
right.
room now. And it seems like the internet agrees. So it's like, okay, and it seems like the reasoning that people are thinking is that maybe Carol Danvers somehow found the other bangle, and that's how they were somehow able to shift. But
Mm.
then it's like, okay, so is Carol Danvers a Jinn also, and she unlocked this power? Did like it's just how why is this another power that the Jinn have, another power that she has to just switch? It's just a no. I don't
I
know.
think honestly, now that you say that, that's the only thing that made sense for me in this episode. If that
What?
were the case, if she found the other bangle, because the last time we saw her in Endgame, aside from the battle at the Avengers place, the final battle, uh, actually no, the last time we saw her was in Shang-Chi, and she, I don't know if she was looking for something similar to the rings, but who knows, she could have came across something and be like, oh, this is similar to what Wong was talking about, and what, let's say hypothetically, what if she touched it and then boom, they switch places, you know? So I feel like, if anything, all of these new rings, bangles, all of that's all going to connect soon. We just don't have a definitive answer yet, but I think that makes sense. I feel like, if anything, if the internet is saying she found the other bangle, then I think I'm with that.
And we talked about like, you know, how she would be brought in because we mentioned it wouldn't really make sense if this was left with her story finishing but nothing else to kind of push forward, say how she ends up in the Marvels.
Mm-hmm.
And with like the little Easter egg earlier on with the 10 rings, etc., knowing Captain Marvel's going to come around the corner, we kind of suspected, like, I think we even made a post like, oh, are the is the bangle and the 10 rings somewhat related, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that this is how they kind of connected. My problem, however, is just like, is this another power the Bengals have? Like, I don't know. It's just, I think
The
that's what's
bangle
coming
is
in.
just all powerful.
That, yeah, and we mentioned this last time. I'm like, okay, Kamala Khan must be like the most powerful person on the planet now. If the Bengals do in fact unlock all these abilities for her,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have full. Uh, if I were to watch this without looking at continuity in like the rules of the game and artifacts and like the origin stories that they're trying to unlock, I would say like I like it because like you said, it's fun. It is a fun story.
Mm-hmm.
I do love how when they brought it back to New Jersey and they have it at the school, it's just very youthful. It gives me very similar like Spider-Man vibes, you know, like with how Ned helps out Spider-Man on his mission in like the first
Yeah.
like homecoming. Like I liked how similar it was to that feel. I like how all these teams kind of come together in attempts to kind of fight off the um, damage control. Like
Mm-hmm.
I liked the light feel and how it was. It's
Right.
just the details weren't there.
Yeah.
And it's still Marvel. Like if you wanted to give us something just lighthearted and feel good and youthful, great. You just don't have to add all this detail that doesn't end up lining up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let me ask you.
So
Wait, before we move forward, I kind of want to bring it back to Carol Danvers just for 1 second. Um, Say when she just first popped up, did she look sick to you, or was it just me?
she looked thin.
Yeah, like I remember people were just talking. It's like, oh yeah, she got jacked for Miss Marvel, and I remember seeing a few. I'm gonna call them training montages on Instagram as far as
I
her
know I did.
working working out in the gym, but she popped up. Her waist was like as thin as my water bottle here, and like her face, it just looked sickly, as if I don't know, maybe space isn't really treating her well right now. Maybe she needs to come to Earth, have a sandwich or something.
See, I wouldn't say she looks sickly to me. Like sickly, like I don't think I feel like I noticed that in the face. She just looked thinner. Not I think in a bad way from what I saw, but just noticeably. I think from when and I was kind of thinking like, oh, if anything, it's like there's a difference when you're trying to build muscle for a role to look like a superhero, and then just like your normal, like the way that you are, you know. So I feel like that's why maybe there was a difference in terms of how I saw her. Like maybe they called Brie Larson to fill the role. It's like we need you for this one little scene. It's like not like she's gonna do this like 8 week whatever program to get into like her Captain Marvel physique just for the one scene maybe. So
Sure,
I don't
sure,
know,
sure.
but
But like
I
her
did notice something different.
Brie Larson as an actress, she's never been that skinny. Like, and I've seen her in other things from like Room, Scott Pilgrim, and like a few other like films like that, to where she had an average look. She wasn't like, she's not like thick. She just but she's not thin, you know. And it wasn't until Captain Marvel to where we actually got more so an athletic kind of, I don't want to say jacked, because we did get jacked in Thor: Love and Thunder with Natalie Portman, but we did get somebody that was in shape here. Now that Captain Marvel, even the Captain Marvel that we got in Endgame, was still almost similar. Now here, like I'll take sickly out of the conversation, but as far as how thin she was, I don't know. I maybe I saw an interview with Christian Bale recently, and he was just talking about how when the producers approached him about playing Gore, they wanted him to put on weight as far as muscle, and he's like, that's impossible because this role that I'm about to finish 2 weeks before we start filming requires me to be super skinny. So when it comes to Brie Larson, let's just say, if anything, that could have been the same case, to where she's in a role to where she had to lose considerable amount of weight just for her to pull off that look for that movie, but that wasn't the Captain Marvel look.
I feel like we're kind of in like a similar idea of like, if anything, it's like for this one scene, she wasn't gonna do her full like Captain Marvel training to get into
Right.
her version of buff. So maybe
Right.
this is just like either like her norm right now, or maybe like pre from a different project or something like that.
Sure.
So, but yeah, so I think we definitely agree. I don't think she was in like her normal like Captain Marvel buff, and I say Captain Marvel buff because there's Jane Foster buff, and then
Right.
there's like the perspective like buffness for like each character. So
Right.
I do, and I was actually kind of looking back just to kind of see, because I do know what you were saying. Like she did look just a little, she didn't look as like buff as we normally see her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's maybe something like that. Like if anything, this wasn't. Since wasn't like a full film, this was like 2 seconds. It's
Yeah.
like you can't really have an actress, I think, like train for the time you need to train to get to like superhero like
Right.
buffness for what's like a
And she
5 seconds.
and she could be working on like something else simultaneously as they were like shooting that one scene, So she's
Yeah,
like, let me
exactly.
go step to the Marvel lot, shoot this scene, and now I got to get back to the skinny roll as far as why I lost all this weight.
The normal, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like we skipped all the way to the end, but I mean, I don't feel like it gave us a lot of detail that like I think would have given us resolution to the nitty gritty that we were looking to hopefully get more information from.
Yeah.
It was a fun episode. Like I did love I have a couple of notes of just some of the fun scenes that I did really like, and I think were executed really well. Let me see. Oh, so I really love the costume reveal. I thought this was such a great scene with Kamala and her mom. I feel like the theme of family has been so present, and the theme of not just family but like a Pakistani family in America. And I really love this scene of her mom just being so supportive of her and finally kind of seeing her daughter for who she is, making this costume for her. Like she loves it. It's such a contrast to say when she's like, yeah, you can go to Comic-Con and here's your Hulk costume,
I hated
so
it.
I really like.
Listen. I'm gonna be that guy. I hated it just because. Why is just the mom now just in with it, and then like say Bruno and Kamran, they're on the road, and then let's talk about time frame here, okay? Because Kamala and her mom have to fly back from Pakistan, right? I have no idea how long that flight is, but if her mom sewn that suit together on the airplane, that makes sense. But I doubt it, and I want to know now where this suit came from. And like initially we had the theory that like Bruno made it just because Bruno made like the eye thing, but her mom didn't know about the eye thing at all, and then now somehow the suit matches matches the eye thing. So I'm
So
sorry.
listen, I think we've established that continuity does not fit in
Man.
Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
Because Van Destine's made it to India.
Yep.
We have him finally meeting up with Bruno, which seemingly is around the same time that we see Kamala defeat the mom.
Right.
And then we see Damage Control destroy Bruno's place, and maybe only a couple hours later we have like Nakia trying to contact Kamala, and she's already home.
Yep.
But it's like there's no way that you prepped to leave, got off your flight, like coming back to like the airport alone.
I'm
is
tired.
Gonna take you, yeah. It's doing continuity. It's just apparently not a thing in this, And it's sad because we're not looking at a DC project. We're not looking at a Sony. You know what? This feels like a Sony project.
Man, I won't go as far as that.
Sony-esque. Sony-esque. It is Sony-esque.
Yeah.
But in this, like, that's what I mean. Like, if you look aside from any issues of continuity, and there's a lot of them, then you can enjoy what you have. That's a really sad standard to say, but it's like you can enjoy these little moments. Like I do just like the way that relationship kind of changed from the beginning. Does it make sense that she was able to sew up this dress for this? No. Does it make sense that it like happened to actually match with the the face piece that Bruno made.
Right.
No, but I did like the moment. And because we did think that Bruno made the costume, I found this out today just because I looked it up since the mom ended up being the one to make it. I in the comics it is Bruno who gives her the whole costume
Oh
and
wow.
fit.
Okay.
So yeah, I
Cool.
thought that was kind of cool.
Cool. Cool.
um, but let's see, just kind of looking at some of the other things. Oh, I did love how when they're in the how do you say the mask
Mosque.
mosque when they're in the mosque and Bruno and Kamran go into disguise and they do like the Marvel 101 I'm in disguise thing where they just wear hats.
Mm-hmm.
Then this time it was like minus the glasses, so they kind of didn't hit it right on the nose.
Right.
But I feel like it was a little bit of a nudge of like that like a runner of like, oh, when I'm in disguise, it's just a hat and some
Right.
glasses.
Right.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm. I don't even get that, like, as far as how that, oh, I guess movies have kind of popularized it to the point to where it's just like, if you need a disguise, just put on a hat and sunglasses and you're good. It's like, we still see you, so we know what you look like, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something also is like with the Red Dagger, because we do get a revisit from them,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, and I was kind of waiting to see, when I forget his name, but when like the Red Dagger, we've kind of been seeing like the only one from the
Mm-hmm.
whole compound, is like, oh, I know a guy, just make sure he gets to the pier. I thought we were gonna see the guy.
I think the guy, if anything, I was hoping the guy was gonna be like the New York chapter of the Red Daggers, you know, who was like, oh, we got daggers everywhere. That's the reason why we weren't back at the hideout, because I got a dagger at a port over here in New York, you know. So I don't know. That's what I was thinking, but it just turned out to be some guy that we never saw the meet happen, and then somehow Kamran made it overseas. So he made it to the boat somehow, and then made it to, I guess, the dagger hideout now.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's in India now with that Red Dagger,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought we were gonna see what's his name, Wong, because you know how Wong has been like showing up in everything. I
Yeah.
thought maybe he was gonna show up in this one. I
That was
thought
the
maybe he was
prediction.
gonna be
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like the hookup or something like that.
Yeah, I was hoping for that too. Hoping to see Wong just to analyze the bangle and see what's up. And if anything, don't let Bruno be the bearer of mutant news. Let, if anything, Wong be that person, you know?
I didn't mind that Bruno was the one to kind of disclose it because I feel like it also showcases like the level of a genius that he is. Like he's not just like, oh, I'm super smart, made it to Caltech. Like I'm Tony Stark esque, like a very, very mini version on the road type of genius,
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't mind that he was the one to give the news. I just feel like they didn't do the work between the beginning to that point to really make that feel like anything other than
Right.
oh, that's kind of cool that we're getting the word mutant thrown around again. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know, but let's see. What did I do here?
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Just when it comes to Bruno, and this is my last little take on the show in its entirety. But when it comes to Bruno, it's like, yes, he's smart, okay, but going from making a some light gloves for Avenger Con to now being able to do body scans and find mutations and know a whole bunch of stuff. It was, I don't know. It was just like from one side of the spectrum of being smart to a borderline, like you said, Tony Stark, Mr. Fantastic type smart, you know? I'm just like, where or how does Bruno fit into that, like, spectrum?
Well, I mean, like to his I guess to kind of shine some light on it, I think in episode 1 they also do kind of show how like, oh, he set up the whole basically smart house and created this whole new like system for like Kamala's family. Like I think it was established from the first episode that he's like a pretty high level of intellect, and I think we just kind of started to learn more and more that he's actually super smart. And I mean, I feel like he's like a baby Tony. Like maybe like that's kind of how Tony was when he was at that age, and now he's building his own suits, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like I said, I haven't seen too much, or I haven't seen down the road too much of Bruno's history in the comics to be like, oh, and he ends up being this hero or something like that. But I feel like they're loading something up because he's a cool character. Like I loved him in the series. He's fun. He's sweet. Like he's so like he's such a great friend because he obviously sees like the relationship between Kamala and Kamran. And despite his feelings, you know, especially in this episode, you know, I think he catches a lot of little moments.
Yeah.
He's still like run, 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 and then he gets caught, you know, and all these things. So he is like a fan favorite. So I feel like them sending him off to California, I don't know, like I'm trying to think what heroes are in California that he maybe ends up linking up with, and like, you know, I don't know, like I feel like there's gonna be more for Bruno in the MCU.
Sure.
Um, and like I said, I don't really know how that looks in the comics, but I'm wondering if it's going to go beyond the scope of what the comics show for him.
Well, this whole show went above and beyond the scope of the comics for Miss Marvel. So who's to say that when it comes to Bruno, he is an exception? So I can see, if anything, if he continues, they're probably going to go above and beyond what he was in the comic books.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well stated.
Yeah. So what we're going to do now, we are going to shift gears. I'm going to bring our list back up of the TV shows. The last time we touched the shows, we only ranked 1 through 6. I know you all can see a few more, but this is like kind of the rest of all of the Marvel projects from all the Netflix shows and the shows that were on ABC. But as of right now, we've only ranked 1 through 6, and right now, Miss Marvel is sitting at number 7. So I'm gonna read off 1 through 6. 1, we have Loki. 2, WandaVision. 3, Moon Knight. 4, Hawkeye. 5, What If. 6, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And 7, Miss Marvel. Now, I don't want to sound like this guy here, but when it comes down to it, is Miss Marvel moving up, or is she staying where she is in comparison to these other 6 shows?
I'm gonna leave her where she's at.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And let me just say, okay, keep in mind this is Marvel, so even things on the end of like a list is not really that bad. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love her. Like I'm super excited to see Kamala again. I feel like the actress did such a great job of portraying this really likable character.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the details surrounding the story just need so much more work. But it was a fun series. It's just not as cohesive and like fully thought out and well written in comparison to any of the other things we have on there. So I can't really justify moving her any higher, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. Just because I wanted this show to be better. I was like, I had a lot of hope, but just after this conversation today, I think we're kind of in sync as far as being out of sync with this show. You know, it was just like, unfortunately, no real answers to anything. Not only our questions, but just the information that was provided. You know.
And it's so sad because I was so excited, and I feel like they were loading up something like so cool, but it's just like I don't know. They set up something, they dismantled it, and they never rebuilt anything. So it's mush. It's just mush when it comes to her.
My brain is mush.
Yeah. When it comes to the details of like how her powers work, where they come from, what is she like? There's no answer, really, no clarity. I feel like we're left just as confused as we were in the beginning, you know. But it was fun. I'm telling you, I loved the characters. I loved Kamala. I loved Nakia. I even loved Zoe by the end of it. Like she did come around in this episode to help up the team, and I thought that was kind of cool. I definitely liked the fights, like the whole school scenes where they're just kind of trying to delay the DODC and everything, you know. So it's sad that had so much potential, but it didn't deliver all the way. And you know, something I think I do stand very firmly on, though, is I feel like it represented like Pakistani families and culture so beautifully in a way that definitely. I think it taught us a lot. Mm-hmm. So it was so great, but it just didn't deliver on a lot of things that I think are important for MCU to do.
I'm looking at all seven of these shows, and of the seven, it's only Miss Marvel and Moon Knight that are origin stories. Now, when it comes to origin stories and just powers in general, we got the general idea. Like Moon Knight is just someone who, like, I feel like if anything, he didn't really necessarily have powers besides like flying. It's just the suit protected him, you know. Mark was already a badass like fighter and all
More
that, you
scared.
know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so if anything, when it comes down to now introducing somebody new with some brand new powers that are totally different from the comics, that's where I believe whoever produced this show, they just could have done a better job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there was a lot of resilience with like, oh my god, it's so different from the comics. I feel like we easily justified it, like, dude, that makes so much sense. Like I feel like it differentiates her from Reed Richards, like it's refreshing, it's cool,
Mm-hmm.
and I did love the scenes at the end where a lot of what she was doing with the hard lights looked so much like how she looks in the comics. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
they did a good job of like parts of her powers paying homage to her origin. It's just everything else just didn't click and land. And so yeah, I hope the next time we see her they do fix some of that, give us some more clarity. Or
Yeah.
if they want to just drop the origin story and just kind of give us some good stuff here for it, I'm cool with that too.
Definitely.
um yeah, so a little bit of a disappointment, but I do love this character, and I'm happy we got introduced to her.
Yeah. And I'm not mad at Marvel trying something new because this is new and different, and that's where they are right now. They're borderline kind of experimenting with new characters on Disney Plus. Moon Knight happened to be a hit. It's just this one. I don't want to say it was a miss. It just could have been a little better, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was our recap on Miss Marvel and the season finale of The Boys. And like Grace mentioned earlier, next week we're going to be celebrating our 1 year anniversary. So come go wait before you come go to a convenience store, find yourself an apple or cherry pie or a pie of your preference, and bring it bring it and watch it with us because we will have it just in celebration of our 1 year birthday of the comic cinematic universe. um, and that happens to land on the 24th. What's today? The 22nd. So Sunday. Our birthday is on
It's her
Sunday.
official birthday. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the official birthday, and we're going to celebrate that next Friday. So come out, check us out, have fun with us, and yeah, I think that's all I got. Grace, you have anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It's gonna be a super fun episode. We're probably gonna be talking a lot of Comic Con stuff because I know, like, as the weekend comes around, we're getting a lot of news. The Harley Quinn show debuted like 2 episodes of the new season.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
super excited. So we'll probably be talking a lot of that. We're gonna break down the last 5 minutes of The Boys,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just gonna be
Oh
a
yeah,
fun.
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's gonna be a fun time of a little bit of everything. So
Can
can't wait to see you guys.
can I make an announcement real quick?
Oh sure.
Um, Before we log off, because we're gonna talk about it more next week. But like I saw something as far as uh, approved trademarks that were filed uh, for Marvel Studios, and I saw that it was the name Multiverse Saga was trademarked. Uh, it was Avengers. The Kang Dynasty got trademarked, and Secret Wars got trademarked. So I'm excited. I'm excited for it all, especially the name Kang Dynasty.
I
And
love that.
I think between now and next week, I have yet to read my Kang comic, so I will take some time out this weekend because my partner, she's having girls night, so I'll have some time to myself. So I might as well brush up on this Kang comic book and check out the history of Kang the Conqueror.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah.
That's we have so much for you guys next week. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That is super cool. I didn't see the trademark stuff. I feel like it's things we knew, but I think the King Dynasty one gave me a couple chills because the other two, I think it's just nice to see them trademark because I feel like we've referred to the saga so far as the multiversal saga already.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of cool that they've like added that as the definitive kind of title for this new saga. What was the other one that you mentioned?
Secret Wars.
Secret Wars, which had not been like confirmed to be where this is leading, but the suspicion for many of us, us included. So that's
it's coming.
All that is coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. I'm so excited.
All right, guys. Well, that has been this episode, and from there, you all have a great weekend. Grace, you have a great weekend. Try to get some rest because when did you get back from your trip?
We got back on Monday.
Oh, so you've had a week to rest. So never mind.
No, I just went straight to work. I've been doing like split shifts, which I don't do. I don't have the endurance for that anymore.
That's rough. I don't miss those. I don't. Man, it's rough. But
yeah.
But yeah, if you can find some time to get some rest, chillax this weekend, and yeah, we will catch y'all next week on our birthday episode. So we will see y'all. Y'all have a great weekend.
Bye, guys. Bye, chill.